We're back with men liking stuff. Okay, this is going to be the literal Horus heresy of men liking stuff. We are doing a lengthy multi-part series about the Primarchs of Warhammer 40K, and one panelist this week didn't make it through the warp. Stephen was supposed to join us, Stephen Grimm, but his uh his prayers to the Omnissiah when answered, his internet's down. So Stephen will be joining us on future episodes. Carl and Mike are back. You'll recognize them from previous Men Liking Stuff Warhammer content. And we are starting with a real cheery pairing, guys. We're starting our examination of the Warhammer 40K Primarchs with Vulkan and Konrad Curze, who have rather notorious private time together. No slashers, not like that. We'll get to that. So, guys, we'll go Mike first, then Carl. Why did you want to talk about these particular Primarchs? Because they both have a strong sense of justice, but operate in totally opposite ways, which is why we put them together. Mike, where do you want to start?
Okay, I'll start with Vulcan because the Salamanders were actually kind of my introduction to 40K, like walking around like a game store. I'm like, oh, who are these guys? And that's kind of like my first introduction to of 40K was the Salamanders, but also because Vulcan, he's always been kind of one of my favorite Primarchs, just because it's like he's the most to me he's the most kind of human and empathetic out of all of them, like kind of throughout, like we'll probably touch on more about throughout his stories. It's like you can see he's a very human character. He's very much driven by his empathy, which can at times lead him to do kind of like very heroic but probably dangerous and stupid things. And also, but for Conrad Kerr, it's like he's one of those like I always kind of like a pang of empathy for him because it's like he's like, what if like someone gave him a hug when he was a child or fresh out of his stasis pod, maybe he would have had a chance. But it almost kind of seems like he's like one of those is like the emperor just decide to like, well, someone's gonna have to kind of take the short end of the stick. Congratulations, you're it. So that's why I've always kind of also found, well, at least his concept interesting. Some of the things he does is like, okay, I'm gonna go read like happy things now because oh boy, but well, I'm pretty sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, for people who don't know Warhammer 40K, they may have stopped watching by now, but um, the Primarchs were stolen in their gestational pods by the Force of Chaos, shot through the warp, and landed on various planets scattered throughout the universe. Konrad Kurze's pod literally smashed through the crust of a mining planet. They're called hive planets. It smashed into the lava of the center of the planet and got spat back out either by magma or volcanic steam. So rough delivery into the world,
Yeah.
and it didn't get better. Carl, do you want to pick up on sort of Conrad Kurze's origin and like why you decided to be on this panel too?
Uh, it was more for Vulcan because I actually just started to read on his last week on his origins and his
Mm.
character, and then I did not as much reading or listening to like podcasts on Conrad Kurz, but I find it fascinating in a way, and more like it's really popular to say that Conrad Kurz is like Batman without boundaries.
Yeah, I've heard that he's Batman.
Yes,
And at the
yeah,
same time, it's like this is when you feel the Warhammer 40K lore dump building, and you can't answer without spewing a 5,000 word essay in about
yeah,
2.5 minutes.
yes,
Right? But
yes.
let's start with Vulcan. That's great because you guys are both sort of Vulcan guys. I'm more familiar with Conrad Kurze's stuff, but
Okay, good.
I do find Vulcan very wholesome. So go ahead. What is about a Vulcan that appeals to you, Carl?
Oh, yes. Vulcan, it's just the way how his character has been written from beginning to, well, not exactly end, because this is open-ended. It's
Right.
more like the story on how he developed in the planet Nocturne,
Yeah.
where they were constantly being raided by Dark Eldars, and they have to fend for themselves, and they have to like it's a really dangerous planet to be on, like not just volcanoes and lava, but like there's these weird gravitational pull that can actually just crush a man easily, like the way how the planet just gravitates. And it's just how he has his core beliefs where he really is like the strength that exists to shield and to not dominate. No expendable human lives. Well, except maybe Eldar.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah, but I mean, he does have a bit of a lesson with also Eldars, like not just human. And also, like he has like a strong sense of honor, regardless of like how many times he got pushed way behind his spiritual and his mental health, everything he went through. And I
yeah.
just found that really just wholesome, endearing, and the way how he treats others in 40K, it's just I love it. It's just mwah, you know.
Yeah, but
He's like,
he's got that cool how he met the emperor story with the whole
yes.
outsider, with them going out hunting and him being super noble and not letting them say he was the winner of the contest because the emperor, the origin of the name salamanders for the legion, the emperor sacrificed his own
Yeah, yeah,
prey to save him, and it's all like, oh, it's the closest thing you get to warm and fuzzies in Warhammer 40K.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that, but then it's mixed with, to me, I mean, I keep going back and forth. Who has the worst deal among the Primarchs? I usually
Mm.
waffle between Curze and Angron, but,
Yes, yes.
but, okay, Vulcan has it pretty bad. Dude cannot die. He can be nuked with a nuclear bomb and reassemble from his atoms, which makes him the Plastic Man of Warhammer 40K. Grant Morrison did that with Plastic Man in a Justice League comic back in the day.
Wow.
But
Yes.
when you think about it, Mike, you were saying some of the decisions he's making, that probably does affect his decision making because, well, these guys won't come back. I will. It's gonna suck. Here goes. But that's what I find so interesting about this pairing is that a lot of characters that have that power. The one that comes to mind is Pius Augustus in Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. Use it
Oh,
as an excuse to fall like there's Eldritch Horrors in that game too. Like embrace the evil, embrace the chaos, make a lot of excuses because, oh, woe is me. I go through all this pain and it never ends. But Vulcan doesn't do that. And guys, Carl, how much of that, and Michael, throw it over to you to answer as well. How much of you think that like Vulcan is just he had a much better upbringing, and how much of it is innate, the sort of inconsistencies or errors in the gene seed just made him kind of have no boundaries as opposed to be Konrad Kurz.
uh,
Like, what's
my
the
first,
nature versus nurture? Yeah, balance there with Vulcan.
yeah, I think it's more how the Vulcan, just the way how where he landed, that's a thing. Like the
Hmm.
way how he is interacting with other humans on that planet of Nocturne, and also like the after like he was discovered by the Emperor, he spent years by the Emperor's side, and just to learn more like how the Astartes program in the labs are done,
Hmm.
um, like all the warfare. Like he was like more like a teacher, but Vulcan in a way still views the Emperor as a distant father.
Right. But he's okay with the distance as opposed to some of the others that went very poorly. Mike, how much do you think it was nature versus nurture with Vulcan?
I say 60-40 nurture versus nature, but just because like when Vulcan was, found by his adopted father, he was basically brought into the community and made part of the community. It's just
Right.
like instead of like, oh wow, you're gigantic and scary, so we're gonna kind of like shouldn't you treat you not like an outsider. It's like they're like he was kind of shown, love like his like adopted family like okay, you were just our giant like 3-year-old son who's taller than your father now. So but what we'll kind of show you love and care, and we'll make you kind of part of this community. And so I think that's definitely kind of shaped Vulcan's kind of like he was kind of predisposed. I think the Emperor kind of made him to be predisposed to kind of maybe be a bit stronger to carry things. So kind of adoptive like early like community building kind of gave him like a very mental strength and gave him like a nice a good solid groundwork to kind of build his ideas of like, hey, what are the strong supposed to do? And like you hear the story like strong protect the weak, what does that actually mean? So he got to kind of like kind of experience all that growing up before meeting the empire, the emperor. Because like 'cause if I remember right, but I say it's like so forest because like nature is because even like the space marines uh based off of his gene seed. Kind of quick note for anyone who's like kind of lost, like the Primarchs are the model, the space marines are all kind of like kind of like of are kind of like copies in a way of their gene father. So like they call the
Hmm.
Space Marines call the Primarchs father. Primarchs most of them call their Space Marines sons. 'Cause- so even before Vulcan met his Legion, they were very much like we hold the line so others may live.
Hmm.
So that's why I got that.
Yeah, and I mean the how they met the Emperor stories couldn't be more different
Oh, yeah.
between Vulcan and Konrad Curze, right? Because maybe not the Emperor's best moment coming down.
Mm.
He tends to tailor what he thinks will work best. And with Konrad Curze, he thought like bringing everybody down in this big military parade. And I mean, it's an epic scene when
Oh
he
yeah.
comes down. Uh, the Vulcan's home planet is called Nocturne. Konrad Kurze's home planet is called Nostromo, even though it's the one in perpetual darkness. Nostromo basically means boatman. I was like, isn't that the whale from Pinocchio? Um, but it's a mining planet,
Hmm.
and Konrad Kurz had already kind of tamed the planet when
Yeah.
the Emperor shows up. And the Emperor comes and takes him, and it's like it was supposed to be this big cool thing, and the planet immediately starts going to crap. But
Again.
like, yeah, I mean, Vulcan tends to stay, like you said, kind of that everyman figure, right? Whereas Conrad's curse, the reason I don't say he's Batman is Batman never ate rats as a homeless street youth, right? I mean that how the different cultures react to, oh, he's 3 years old and full grown. That I think is a
Mhm.
major part that shapes the different Primarchs because some of them will just go, well, that's weird. And others will actually be terrified of it. And I mean, one of the challenges with dealing with Conrad Curse and the reason I'm like, okay, I don't know if anybody can like him, but you do empathize with him
Yeah.
is because there's a lot of evidence that he's he deliberately does horrible things, deliberately tries to terrify his enemies, hence Batman, the idea they'll fight less if they're terrified. It evens the odds.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of indications of definitely chronic depression, possibly dissociative identity disorder, that
Mm.
difference between Konrad Curse and then the Night Haunter, the moniker he got on Nostromo that Nostromo, sorry, that he ruled under. He seemed to treat those as different people, as sort of one was the kind of calculating leader, the other was the batshit crazy psychopath that tortures people for fun. What do you
Yeah.
guys think of that split? Was that Carl a character, or was it actually a split personality?
That's I think that's it's kind of more open-ended for me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's splitting, I would say maybe. I mean, when you're constantly having like visions and hallucinations of like of people, murders, and his own self in the
Mm-hmm.
future, I can imagine it could actually just drive someone that insane to maybe try to cope different. Maybe I don't know if he's trying to cope or accept it, or he actually tried to cope in like several for a long time, and then once he accepts it, that's when the crazy starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, you can compare him with Sanguinius regarding the precognitive abilities, but all of the Primarchs have some level of precognition, don't they? Some have
I
more,
don't,
some have less, but they all have little glimpses.
yeah, maybe glimpses. 'Cause, like I can't remember Vulcan having any precognition. But yeah, I know Sanguinius for sure. Uh, Gilman and Rogel Dorn. I don't think
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
had any.
But we know
Um,
of. They didn't
yeah,
act on them. But,
yeah,
Sanguinius got good or at least neutral prophetic visions, as well as some not great ones. Like they both saw their own deaths, but Konrad Curse only saw the bad. He only saw the absolute worst outcome likely in a scenario. And that, I mean, that'll eat at you. That really had to
yeah.
suck. Now, uh, Mike, we'll start with you. He was that when the Emperor showed up with all his bannermen and all his legions, and it was like, look, you get to have cool toys, you little psycho, but I need you. Um, what do you think about the Emperor's very hands-off approach to Konrad Curse? Because he clearly had a plan. He knew what he was getting into, but destiny or miscalculation?
no, because I kind of lean towards the thing is like the Emperor maybe knew some of his sons were going to rebel, but he didn't know which one. So I'm thinking it's maybe kind of a miscalculation and maybe kind of part also well miscalculation to the extent like of how bad Conrad Curse ended up. But I think the Emperor always wanted kind of a bloody bag man, someone to like hey, I need you to make these people die in a very public and like kind of kill one to terrorize a thousand so you can like save 10,000 from an unnecessary war.
Hmm.
So like because I think that was supposed to be Conrad Kurz's kind of like role in there. So it's like, hey, you do this one horrific thing, you scare these people into line so no one else dies, and so and to kind of develop like that kind of executioner mentality, you kind of need to isolate him. So I think that's kind of what the Emperor was trying to do. He was trying to like, hey, I need an like a bloody executioner,
Hmm.
so I kind of need you to be hands off and be not a happy a person to do these horrific things I need done. But I think it's kind of like the Emperor miscalculated into the extent of how much hands off he was, because like yeah, if you're gonna have like someone do that for you, you kind of need to keep them at least in your shadow slash side so they don't kind of turn on you like Conrad did.
Yeah, I mean, Carl, it was sort of like, yes, executioner, but also Warhammer 40K is already kind of choose your favorite war criminal, but
Mhm.
the Night Lords, Curze's faction, do all the war crimes. Like they
Well,
invent
yeah.
war crimes because there weren't enough war crimes to war crime. What do you think about the ultimate calculations surrounding him with the fact that he was messed up from the jump and the Emperor not giving him a bit more guidance? Like, hey, if you don't like Nostromo, you don't have to recruit from there. You can conquer another planet for starters. Like, what do you think about the hands-off approach?
Well, I would say that the Emperor, yeah, he should have actually gave him more guidance and more tools,
Hmm.
which led to Konrad Curze like just despising the Emperor. But not only did he didn't technically join with he did join with Horus in the Horus Heresy, but not because he wanted to not to join Horus because he kind of doesn't agree with Horus. It's just that he had a point to prove to the Emperor that he created the monsters and now the Emperor wants to destroy the said monsters. So, which actually led to him believing that the way he views Conrad views himself is a
Yeah.
monster, and he just revels in it.
That's my theory. I mean, the fact that even Chaos wouldn't claim that dude. I was like, whoa, none of the Lords of Chaos, like, no, man, he's already warped enough. We're not touching this guy. He
Yeah.
Yeah.
never actually, he wasn't even Chaos Undivided. He turned into his own monster. And um, there's no such thing as spoilers in the Horus Heresy because a lot of it was in source books before they wrote the
Yeah.
story. But he literally, if you believe the hype, allowed himself to be assassinated to prove a point to the Emperor.
Hmm.
And that is a fascinating part of him because okay, they have said it's not canonical, the parts of the Emperor's backstory that I see tie between him and Konrad Kurtz, in that the Emperor grew up rough as well. You know, that whole backstory about him being what, a Hittite, and his father got killed, and he ended up just killing his uncle with a thought. And I wonder if he thought that, Kurtz just had a rough upbringing, but so did he. With time, you'll get past it. And um, do you think there was a certain amount of guilt? This is another thing I'm curious about. We don't know much about the Emperor of Mankind's inner workings, but do you think there was a certain amount of guilt that the process of making the Primarchs was a deal with the various Chaos Devils? Do you think that part of the reason the Emperor didn't look too hard, Carl, was because, he's like, yep, there were going to be defects on this process?
That's that's a little hard for me to answer.
Hmm.
It's really like if the Primarch if the Primarchs had like an already defect in their gene seed or
Well, they all have a defect, but this was a bad one.
I mean, yeah, true. The
Hmm.
Emperor did like just took the psychic warp energies to actually create the Primarchs.
Yeah,
So a lot of everything that comes from the warp is all negative energies or emotions of living human beings and
yeah.
other beings. So you probably just have like, oh, a random well, you're gonna get this part of the warp energy on that baby, and that guy be grew up to be a psycho and just having fun with skins and all that.
Yeah, because he
Um,
he is he is a psycho. He's a dyed-in-the-wool psycho.
yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, like that's not all. What's fascinating about him is that he does have a philosophy. He does. He believes the
okay,
emperor is a hypocrite because he knew what the Night Lords were doing, and there's this whole challenge where the some of the other Primarchs don't think the Emperor reined him in enough. Um, Rogaldorn being one of them. I mean, they got history too, right?
yep,
Um, but they don't think they reined him in enough. But the uh, but Kurz in some ways believes that he was executing the Emperor's true vision, and the Emperor just won't own it. Mike, what do you
right.
think about that dichotomy?
It's like I think it's maybe like it's kind of like that's both true because the Emperor like it's the Great Crusade. It's like the Emperor like, hey, I'm not gonna bring humanity in, kind of like the like Star Trek Federation, like like democracy, like everybody gets hurt. It's that he's the Emperor's like Great Crusade. Hey, you will now all listen to me, or I will keep killing you all. So he's basically subjugating the entire like galaxy with violence. So I can definitely see Curze's a point of like, hey, you unleash this horrible galaxy spanning war for conquest, not but and you have to made some monsters along the way, and you don't own the monsters. I definitely see Conrad Curze's point, but I definitely see the other Primarch's point. It's like, yeah, you need the Emperor probably needed to yank that leash a little more, or at least and or at least like not like actually censure like if we ever do like kind of like what he did to Logar, because the Emperor reigned in Logar more, and I say things Conrad Kurz and the Night Lord were doing was a lot worse than anything the
Hmm.
Word Bearer did pre-heresy.
Right.
Yeah. And there's that whole, this is what I find interesting about some fan interpretations of the Emperor's actions, because the Emperor himself says, I am not a god. Don't treat me like a god. Don't worship me as a god. That didn't take.
Yeah.
Ironically, we saw that echoed in Kurze's command to the Night Lords to not hunt down his assassin, and
Mm-hmm.
they did anyway. But this idea that everything the emperor does is right and good, and we just don't understand his motivations. I think he himself would say that isn't true. And, he did probably make some pretty big mistakes. And it- do you think sometimes well, we'll have to do a men liking stuff about the Emperor of Mankind, I think, because so many of these stories are like, what was the Emperor thinking? And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the idea of justice that is at the core of the dichotomy, the reason we match these two guys together. Um, well, Konrad Kurtz's idea of justice is in punishment, right? You do something
Yeah.
wrong, you're punished for it. And that's
Right.
why he had no problem flaying people alive, because he thought, the people I'm dealing with, they're hardened people. Killing them will not be enough. It's not as enough of a deterrent. We need to do the most horrible executions imaginable and broadcast it. I'm not sure I agree with his logic, but he certainly stuck to it. Uh, Vulcan's idea of justice is different. One of you guys said it earlier, Carl. Was it you that I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything I won't? Was that Carl or Mike?
I think,
I think that was you, Carl. But
I mean,
what do you think? Let's talk about that. What do you think Vulcan's idea of justice is? Because it was sort of a show don't tell thing with him. We
right.
don't have the same big speeches. So we'll go to both of you. Carl, what do you think Vulcan's idea of justice was?
Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes.
Okay. Mike, do you want to jump in? Give Carl a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Sure,
me,
yeah.
uh, I think that like maybe in modern parlance, Vulcan has a much more of what we call a restorative
Yeah.
justice mindset. And that's kind of like, like, oh hey, you do something wrong, you maybe serve like a penalty or something like that, but then you're brought back into the community slash of a fold of like where you commit a crime. It's not like, oh, you make one mistake, you're gone for ever, because like Vulcan's very much like I said this earlier, but he's very big on community and all that, and kind of like all the things he kind of does, even like when he crosses a wrong, he's like, okay, so like I will kind of like punish myself, but then I'll try to reintegrate, like basically uh take what's broken, because he's a blacksmith, takes what's broken and then fixes it, and kind of either make it like new, better. So Vulcan always kind of struck me as kind of a restorative justice, while Curze always that kind of that retributive justice, kind of like we say nowadays.
Carl, you
I
found your
don't know.
notes? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Okay, yeah, that was basically it.
Okay, great. Carl, you found your notes?
yeah. So, like back when Vulcan was still in the planet of Nocturne.
Hmm.
Okay, I have to check my notes again.
Okay.
Because back when he was on the planet one, long before he was discovered as a Primarch, the constant Dark Eldar raids they were having, at some point he was told by his adoptive father to like this is not his fight, just
Hmm.
like don't follow, just take the villagers and just like be safe. No, he that's when Vulcan like he took his both his hammers and decided to pick up the fight. And this is his idea of justice is to stick up to what it one defending people is one thing, but you gotta like sometimes just like stop taking the abuse and it just
Hmm.
deal with it.
And that's a good point. The fact that he was raised with the Drukhari as an enemy, they got too many damn names. The Drukhari, the Dark Eldar, the whatever Y thing that I can never pronounce. But seeing the cruelty that, if Kurt saw it, he'd probably make notes to see what the Drukhari do to people.
Yeah.
That was probably very formative. Vulcan is just a better judge of character as well, right? Like he sees Horus and he's like, "Oh, that guy seems sus." Whereas Kurz meets Fulgrim and he's like, "Oh, he's the only one without any darkness in him. I like him. He just laughs."
Really.
That it's almost like it was incomprehensibly awful, so he couldn't see it. Or chaos is blocking that part of Kurz's backstory I find interesting because there is clearly deep issues in Fulgrim. It was a bit of foreshadowing, might have just been creative license that I'm looking into it more. But, I do think that when you're an ideologue, you have trouble reading people. And Vulcan's not an ideologue, even though he has a very strong sense of justice. Would you both agree to that? I realized I just
Yeah.
made a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, what do you think the difference is there between someone who's more of a, like you said, restorative, like spot on, people oriented hero versus, the thing we come up against again and again and again in 40K, which is the dogma?
Yeah. To me, it's the big difference is to be able to kind of, see the trees through the forest. It's like you can like Vulcan can like see like each people like see each person, maybe has some empathy of for that. So but he can kind of like like understand it's just like, hey, there are maybe reasons why, maybe not good reasons, but there are reasons why person did X, Y, or Z. And also kind of, growing up, with the Drakari, it's just like that's a for that's like kind of like one of the worst factions to go against in 40K, because they're basically, hey, we will torture you to death so our souls don't get eaten type evil. It's
Hmm.
just like out of all the factions, it's just like, yeah, you're they're the only faction you really never want to be captured by. So kind of seeing that cruelty and all that, so Volk can understand. It's like people can be driven to do very desperate things. Versus kind of like the dogma way doesn't allow to see people like to see like you say something's like 9 times out of 10. The dogma doesn't let you see the 10th time, or like
Right.
lets you see like, oh hey, there are maybe reasons why. It's very yes, no, dead, or alive
Hmm.
thinking. And then Curse was like very much that, like black, black, white, mostly black, uh, kill them all dogma. So you could never kind of see. It's just like hey, someone got screwed over. They didn't really have a choice or a chance. So there's really punishing that person doesn't really fix the issue. And most you're alleviating a symptom. And
Hmm.
most of the time, not even that, considering how bad trauma was.
Yeah. Oh, and no lie, it's a horrible place.
Hmm.
Like it Gotham City has nothing on it. Now, Carl, I want to add a little thing because a lot of the things Mike said tie into the fact there's, even though he's named Vulcan, there Warhammer 40K, he's the guy with the actual Warhammer in this thing. But it actually started off as a blacksmith hammer, and he's sort of an amalgam of Vulcan with the fire and then Thor from Norse myth, because Thor
Right.
is the god that I think temperament wise, forget the
Yeah.
Marvel character, the
Yeah.
actual Norse mythology, Thor is the closest to that people's protector, people's champion, the Asgardian that you want to meet because he'd be okay
Yeah.
to you. He doesn't have that edge that some of the other Primarchs, even the loyalist ones, have with people. What was that part of the early appeal to you, that he was like nice, or what do you take from that inclusion in of a people's Primarch?
It's more like showing his mental resilience to do the right thing. And even like the amount of times that he's just been tortured and just beheaded, nuked, the whole fun stuff. Um, he's still like, yes, like he was deeply scarred when Konrad Kurz was just like done with all the torture, but he still is Vulcan. He still do the right thing and be compassionate. But even then, he makes his mistakes and he owns his mistakes. He like what happened with the story about with the elder child,
Hmm.
that he still like whenever he does something wrong, he does feel deeply his mistakes. Like he this is something I found really relatable from for me personally. If I do something like if I do like a mistake that it's bad or like miscalculation, I would actually like really take time for myself to just feel like not just go through guilt, but like just talk with myself.
Yeah, it's funny that one stayed with him too, because I mean the fact that he had any compassion for the Eldar at all,
Yeah,
that's not what Primarchs were designed to do.
that's
So,
true. Yeah,
yeah, and so when you say he made a mistake, I think the mistake, he burns a child alive, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I remember, yeah, if I remember the story right, is he's kind of capturing a planet called Dara. The people there kind of worship the Eldar because the Eldar saved him from the dark Eldar. That's its own rabbit hole. Uh, and basically, then this was what's with it was strange enough. It was actually with the Night Lords that they were conquered the Salamanders and
Yeah, because
and then
Curse
they were
laughed at
going.
him when this happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 because
yeah.
like
Okay.
yeah, and then like they were killing a close personal friend of Vulcan was killed in that fight, and Vulcan's kind of like he's basically he lost his temper, and it's like, oh, the Eldar, the ancient enemy, and he kind of like gave into his dark side slash demons and incinerated an Eldar a child
Hmm. Who was
alive that
surrendering?
yeah,
was
Yeah.
surrendering. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the story behind that. And then like that's actually one of the reasons why I call one of the most human empathetic, because like who had like because we've all probably had points in our lives where we lost our temper, probably didn't do anything as bad as like burn an Eldar child alive, but did something like that we regret, and that's so. But that Vulcan didn't try to like, oh, I was angry, I was bad. He's like, I gave into my demons. That was wrong of me, and I and after burning the planet to the ground, he swore, "I will now protect this planet," and he shows up later in the War of the Beast to protect the planet. But that's down the road type things.
And that's an example of something he could have gone, it's just an Eldari.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have to feel that bad. The fact that and 40K keeps hinting at the fact that the Eldari, despite what the Emperor says, aren't all bad. And possibly there can be coexistence at some point. There is in pockets. But, Carl, you said that he learns from his mistakes. The fact that he saw that as a mistake at all when that's Primarch gonna Primarch
Yeah.
they were designed to have that battle rage. Why do you think he's so different in that regard? Because even Sanguinius doesn't feel bad when he loses a shit like that.
Well, it's
Do you think it's the experiences with Drukhari?
I think, but he was experienced with like at the very young age, like what the Drukhari was capable of doing, because he already saw like all the crimes and all the like just the most atrocious thing right off the bat, and he probably has a lot of like probably had a lot of suffering at a
Hmm.
young age from all that,
Yeah.
and he just has this more protector rather than not being a shield, but more. Well, I mean, not being a sword, but rather being the shield of humanity, rather than he did like you said. Actually, I was surprised you brought that up. That Primarchs, they all have this genetic function in their brain of aggression,
Yeah.
tapping in, and
Yeah.
that's happened with Vulkan.
Yeah. Yeah. But he actually doesn't like it, as opposed to some of the other loyalist Primarchs who are more associated with control. It's just, well, you let it out in the right places.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he has a very different relationship to that than the others. I think some might even call it. It's interesting that he doesn't get what Corvus Corax gets with, accusations of cowardice, accusations of being soft. I guess they don't dare because they
Hmm.
know he'd knock their head off with one of his hammers. But it is very sort of he's not the Viking Primarch, but there's definitely an overlap there of no, it's got to be a good battle. Nobility, I guess, is that's in him from the beginning, that even when it would advantage him, he tells the truth, including to himself. Now, that brings us to, well, I think we're all sort of avoiding the, like I
Uh,
said, alone time
Yeah.
between Curze and Vulcan because like things like that, they're all lead ups to that. I don't know if they
yeah.
did it intentionally or they're just like, yeah, this constant Batman and the Joker, ironically, Curze is the Joker here. But um the torture of
Hmm.
Vulcan, that was that yeah, that was after he survived a nuke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
After
yeah,
the
yeah.
the, the drop massacre.
Yeah. Oh, it was right after the drop site massacre. That's right. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
people
yeah. I
who
remember
don't, the people who don't know, the drop site massacre is the event in the Horus Heresy where the Horus Heresy really gets going.
Yeah.
That's when everybody goes, shocker, mask off. We're against you. We're coming for Terra. Bloody battle over multiple planets for years and years and years ensues. So that was when you can't deny that Conrad Curse is insane
yeah,
anymore. Yeah. And
Insane the
then,
membrane.
yeah. And because Vulcan can't die, Curse literally goes, let's have some fun. And this, I don't think Conrad Curse can have fun in the way that most people do. He was trying to make a point here.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's almost like less like, oh, let's have some fun. It's like I will win this philosophical debate by basically kind of like by Primarch. But basically, you know, you see this in Marvel comics, like you're only one bad day away
Yes.
from being
Yes.
me. Like, and this was like basically that tripped into steroids, like, you know, like basically like, the reason why we kind of tap dance around this because it involves, like, you know, torture, killing of innocent civilians in pretty horrific ways. It's like this is like this when we say Warhammer is grim dark, this is some grim dark, not kind of like as in like, oh, this is like some random, like, okay, this is kind of depressing and scary. I get why people are kind of creeped out by Warhammer because this is very very scary things. Like, and then like there's a bunch of other stuff. Like, I don't know how much I can say because it's gonna go up on YouTube, and YouTube doesn't like half the things that happen in there. So like
Yeah.
so
He
so so
he
this is what
basically turns Vulcan intern into every part of a Thanksgiving dinner. So, you
Yeah.
know, he chops him up, he stuffs him full of things. It's really nasty what he
yeah
does. I mean, I give Konrad Curze credit for being a villain in Warhammer 40K that even by the standards of 40K, everybody's like, whoa, maybe too far, my dude. Now,
Mm,
there's Carl, you said immediately he was trying to prove a point.
yeah.
And there is some back and forth I do here because on the one hand, Conrad Kurz can't handle Vulcan's light,
Yeah.
metaphorically, right? Like
Right.
Vulcan is so sunny, he is optimistic, he sees the best in people. Conrad Kurz talks a lot about it being a calculation, but I think at the end of it, he just cannot handle Vulcan existing because he inflicts doubt.
Right.
What do you think about that? Because you guys are both Vulcan guys.
Yeah. Uh, but I can also be a little Conrad too for I mean all
Hmm.
Primarchs.
Hmm.
But yeah, the thing is with Conrad is he wanted to prove that even the brightest light can still be dim with darkness and try to like I don't think he was really having fun. Like, does he know how to have fun? I don't know.
No, I mean,
Um,
he thinks that fear is the only thing that ultimately works, right? That was the
Fear. Yeah.
philosophy that allowed him to justify for a really long time everything he did. Well, most of what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He because he still views punishment and cruelty as necessary for control.
Right. Ultimately, everything else will fail. This is the only thing that is
Hum
universally understood. It's the only thing that's really effective.
and I'm like just go back to when I said that the way he views the emperor and himself and the other primates that the emperor created the monsters and he wants to rid of the monsters and he wanted to prove the point that Vulcan can also be a monster as well.
Right. Right. And he saw that little moment that gave him a bit of hope that, hey, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I actually am right. Um,
yeah, the elder child. Yeah,
yeah. And this is interesting, even though we call it grimdark, there's a lot of shades of gray in this storytelling. Right. And that's what I love about these great big characters that, let's face it, Games Workshop created to sell the plastic crack. It's ultimately to push people into the models because they look freaking cool. And
oh yeah,
that's what amazes me about the depth of storytelling they manage because I do find myself going back and forth on Conrad Curse wasn't entirely wrong. You know, that the Imperium does become something where fear tends to be the go-to. You
Mhm.
know, don't touch it, it's heresy. Don't rebel, we'll put you out an airlock on a void ship. You know, it does tend to be the expedient thing. And as we talked about, the Emperor of Mankind was fine with um them war criming all over the place. You know, the Night
Mhm.
Lords, they'd send in and they would do awful stuff. It's like a bit of Vietnam, definitely shades of the reports you're hearing coming out of Ukraine. Like
oh yeah,
this happens in
Yeah.
human work. The Crusades, the Holy
yeah,
Crusades,
Mhm.
the all sides did horrendous things. Um, but what do you think happened when he couldn't do it? Vulcan didn't break.
Um, I, I think it's just like I think that's what finally drove him to accept his death, because it's like because I was feeling like because he wanted to prove that point, but he kind of failed with Vulcan after taking a massive ass whooping from Vulcan, because Vulcan's the biggest, strongest Primarch. For anyone who doesn't know, Primarchs are basically a demigods,
Yeah, they're
and
giants. They're bigger
yeah,
than Space
and
Marines. Yeah.
Vulcan was the demigod to demigod. So you can imagine how much of an ass whooping that he laid out on Conrad Kurz. So I think that drove Konrad Curze like, okay, so me dying is the only way I can still prove my point. So I think that like that beat down by so that's what I think is like he lost that argument, got a beat down, and he finally said like, fine, if I have to die to prove my point, I will prove my point, because that's one of the great tragedies about him is like he never learned to kind of like let go, kind of like turn around. He I always have to be right, and it ended up eventually costing him everything.
Yeah, I mean, should we get the whole maze thing? I mean, when you call in Perturabo, you're desperate because
Yeah.
nobody likes that guy. Uh, but
Not even Fulgrim.
not even Fulgrim, and Fulgrim likes Curze. I mean, that was the Fulgrim. I think was the only kind of spark of kindness Konrad
Hmm,
Curze had in his life, which is an
right.
interesting character point for Fulgrim. He did try to be cool to the guy, but the fact that he had Perturabo like design this elaborate maze that was like that Doctor Who episode where he ended up punching through the diamond wall for like 20 million years. Warhammer did it first, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. But it's it's going through the labyrinth again and again and again. It stopped making sense. He was trying to drive him crazy, but ultimately he did very Thor-like get reunited with his hammer, and then he got teleported onto McCraig, fell from a massive height, got burned to a crisp upon re-entry. But he was still cool with it. Like the
Yeah,
dude is unbreakable. Um, and that does seem to be, I mean, that's one of those things where you go to all this work to get a particular outcome and then you don't get it. I think, would you guys agree that ultimately Vulcan broke Kurz, not the other way around?
Yeah, I
absolutely.
agree.
Yeah. Okay, Carl, do you want to elaborate on that?
Um, it was already said that he tried to break Vulcan, and he just couldn't do it. So yeah, so he won. Like he tried everything, tried to prove a point, even though he did saw that little glimmer of hope that
Yeah.
that Vulcan can also lose its temper and punish uh others like the Eldar. But
Mhm.
nope, he didn't get what he wanted, and so he got pummeled. He himself like, and then Vulcan escapes, and well, and now it just makes Conrad just overthink again and again, and with all his visions, and
Yeah.
he just said nope. He wants to prove that, yeah, he wants to prove to the Emperor that he is a monster, that he, Conrad himself is a monster as well. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
if even with all that overthinking, Tzeentch still wouldn't touch him. Bro was too crazy. I
yeah,
just reiterate that again. He was too scary for Tzeentch. But Mike, you were saying about the importance of the legions, the Space Marine legions,
Yeah.
and the Primarchs. And at this point in Vulcan and Conrad Kerr's story, um, the Night Haunter hates the Night Lords. Like he's unique among the Primarchs for utterly despising his Space Marine Legion.
Mhm.
So the Salamanders are obviously very different. They're like the little Charmanders of
Yeah, they're
Warhammer. They're
like
kind of
the
cute.
Yeah.
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 So go for people do like the little YouTube short version of these two legions and the
Okay.
relationships to the Primarchs.
Okay.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, 'cause, like something like you probably know, it's like a big thing about almost quote unquote generational trauma because uh the emperor is the father, primarchs are the father to their legion. The Night Lords are basically like at this point war crimes incarnate. They they hated by them, like they'll do everything. They are just evil for the sake of evil, like as in like they will like steal a ship and go literally raiding men and toss everybody out an airlock to kind of to cow a planet into submission. You know, that very, you know, evil, cruel, like their father Konrad Curze, but they don't even try to
Mhm.
justify it.
Yeah.
They just embrace the evil for evil. Um, the salamanders are kind of the quote unquote heroes, as like they will try to save children. They will put their lives on the line for just the normal everyday imperial citizen. They're
Hmm.
very much kind of like that. I will defend you. I will kind of take care of you because they're like the only legion that still, after they're recruited and modified, they're the only legion that will go back to their parents that they were taken from as children and still be very integrated with the communities and with the empire. There's a reason why there's kind of like a fan art of a salamander like holding a little girl's hand while he's like, you know, like
Yes.
walking her somewhere. It's like the salamander are very much like we are the people's legions. We care for the people. Like the Imperium is its people. Like it's not the planets. It's not
Hmm.
its lords or anything like that. The Imperium are the people. And but also like their father, they're very much big into smiths and fire, so they have no problem literally burning everything that threatens the Imperium's people to ash. And I'm being very literal there.
Oh yeah.
They will burn everything to ash if you look at the population wrong. Like, and they've even to this day thrown down with other space marine legions for when they risk um civilians' lives. Like there's a chapter in Marines Relevant. They you know, fired artillery shells into a hospital zone. The chapter master the salamanders found the chapter master of the Marines Relevant and basically laid a beat down on him for doing that. That's kind of like the big thing. So like both are very much reflections of their other fathers, maybe even turned up a degree or two, because it's like we want to be like our father, or we, you know, we're gonna surpass our father, you know, because they both want to kind of, you know, prove themselves in comparison to their fathers.
Yeah. Carl, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, for Vulcan, yeah, I
Hmm.
jokingly refer to him and the salamanders as the big, warm, fuzzy mall Santas with flamethrowers.
Mall Santas with flamethrowers. That's excellent. It really is a projection of how those two dudes feel about themselves. Yeah, because I mean, that's where the fact that Konrad Kurz wills himself into becoming a monster. Like they never explain the physical transformation. It's not necessarily chaos. He just decided he was a monster, so he did it. He almost had that emperor's like formidable will, right? The emperor brings light everywhere because basically he willed it. He willed the whole imperium into existence in a lot of ways. And what strikes me about Vulcan is he's sort of like, I'm good. You know, he's one of the Primarchs who's just like, no, I'm okay. Like, we don't have to be the best at any one particular thing except setting things on fire. Um, but I do think that this is more of a Fulgrim thing, but perfect not being the goal, good being the goal is also a major thing with Vulkan that again speaks to those Norse origins. Yeah.
Yeah,
Car
so it's funny that we mentioned before that Conrad he had a bit of a friendship with Fulgrim, but
hmm
Vulcan it was actually with Ferrus Manus
Yeah.
Mhm.
because they both like they actually have like this um relationship where they would just share the same passion for craftsmanship, like just
Mhm.
craft the hammers and this was like what he learned that what happened with Ferrus Manus on Dropside Massacre. Yeah,
hmm
he already he felt that. He felt that pain. He felt that loss right away.
Yeah. And that, I mean, Konrad Curze saw that coming, but that could have been because that was one of the visions
Yeah,
of basically his head being used as a bowling ball. Um, but that could again have broken Vulcan. And that's one of those moments where it's just like you can't logic that resilience, right? That's one of those things. Now you can say that because he maintained connections to people, he didn't self-objectify the way some of the other Primarchs did, that may have saved him in the long run. And the fact that the guy who can't die is one of the more human among them is super poetic. And I mean, this is one of the moments where I think that I end up thinking about Warhammer 40K a lot watching the news lately, and I've done a video on this, but the fact that Kurtz is all the end result, the end result, the end result, right? And he just doesn't like anything, and everything's dreary and depressing, and he ends up a monster, unloved, alone, taken out willingly by an assassin. And, a lot of the atrocities in 40K are taken from field accounts of actual,
right.
Mhm.
terrorism that's done. I won't describe it, what I've been told by guys who served certain places, because it is horrific. And a lot of 40K fans are veterans.
Yep,
Um,
included.
There you go. So you can, well, what is the appeal? Because I mean, some of this stuff, like you said, you can't even describe some of the torture scenes. What's the appeal for someone who's been there?
It's basically it's like I've almost said this before, but it's like you can fight. That's kind of the thing because we're up against a lot of very like evil, very darkness, and I've seen this like in like almost Elder Core, like there's nothing you can do. It's like you're hopeless. Like why fight? Just roll over die. But 40K is it's like you have that same darkness, that pain and all that horrificness. It's like but the message is always you can fight, and you just choosing to fight is a win, period. It's like, yeah, you may not win that battle, but you always get a victory just by choosing of fight. So it's like in a very kind of perverse way, like when like faced with like so much like darkness and all that, it's actually I find it Warhammer 40K very hopeful because it's just like yeah, you're up against some bad things, but you can fight. That's the message. You can always do something. You are not a powerless, not waiting for death. It's you at least stand up and say, like, I may not stop you, but I will do everything I can. It's just like so I find that very almost like a very hopeful, like literally empowering thing is just like you can do this. And you do that, you may not hold the battlefield at the end of the day, but you just doing that is a win. That's why that's what I kind of love about Warhammer. It's just like, yeah, there's lots of darkness, but it's just like, but you can always but you don't have to succumb to the darkness. You can always fight it. That's what I always find beautiful about Warhammer 40K.
Carl, do you have anything to add to that, or I'll get to my final question that I didn't prep you guys for at all, so this might be super awkward, but I
Okay.
have hope.
Yeah, I'll just add my own.
Hmm.
So for me, it's Warhammer 40K is just a form of deparitalization. Yes,
Right.
actually, you just released a video
Yeah,
today.
parentific. I'm doing the well, this is
Yeah,
gonna air next week, but
and
yeah, last week was on parentification. Yeah.
yeah, that that's ex that's actually for me that's a form of just it's not just a form of escapism. I mean, it is, yes, but it's just for me, it's just um a way to just learn, not just in what in current system here we have here like right now, but to learn like from fictional stuff like Warhammer there's a lot to relate,
Hmm.
analyze, and just go in because there's so much.
Yeah, I mean, I had three different takes on some of these things, and you guys all had something completely different. They give you that
Right.
freedom to kind of play with it. Now, the Horus Heresy is not letting us go. This was the question I didn't prep you guys because we're doing the scouring now. Yeah, I
Yes.
found out about this
Yeah.
after I came up with this idea. And so, is there any unexplored element of either Vulcan or Konrad Curse that they could unpack further in the scouring? I know
Ooh.
mine, but we probably won't get it. Anybody want to go first?
I might have one for Conrad, interestingly
Oh,
enough.
okay, I have one for Vulcan. So, Carl, what's yours for Konrad?
Probably more like because we already touched that the Chaos God just don't want to get close to
He's
Conrad,
too icky.
but
Yeah.
but there might be one Chaos entity that I think maybe actually was like, no, he's kind of cool.
The one they
So
had to
that would actually
rename.
it's
The fifth.
well, it's more like no, the first of the Prince, the Dark Prince, Bellacord. I think he might actually have more like might have more to do with Conrad Curse. Just maybe try to maybe just put a more chaos. Maybe I don't know. It's a possibility.
Okay, that's interesting. Mike, you got one?
Yeah, something I kind of want to see from Vulcan is, oh, what's the best way to explain this is like him like trying to build trying to like build something on his own, because we see them as entire heresy, like he's conquering, he's doing this, but I kind of want to see him like, what does a Vulcan who's left to his own devices uh uh, look like that's something I kind of like, because we don't get to spend a lot of time with him in his childhood. Like, that's something kind of like, what does Vulcan do in his downtime? I kind of want almost like a little slice of life of
Mm,
Vulcans, plus a slice of life story of Vulcans. I just want kind of, that side of him explored a little bit more. I doubt they'll do it, but hey.
That's interesting because I would like a little bit more about what him and the Emperor did when he spent all that time with them.
hmm.
Like I know they like the Emperor to be sort of unknowable, but did they just like parallel play? Vulcan was building something, the Emperor was building something. Like, what was all that time? Because he's not a touchy-feely guy. The
Yeah.
Emperor, he's not even that talkative unless there's, some sort of mission critical communication. So
Mhm.
what did they do? I mean, with Kurz, I'm still waiting to find out that no, he couldn't go through with the assassination at the end. And he's actually alive. And I mean, that's going to be a completely different character because now he can't deny his own hypocrisy either.
Hmm.
That would be interesting, because he's not totally gone. He isn't claimed by chaos in the same way that he could turn it around. That'd be a hell of a thing.
No, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he's a very interesting anomaly in a lot of ways. And other than the Night Lords just being cool looking because they can put spikes on the pauldrons and all that stuff to make them scarier. They really did do an interesting job with all the Primarchs, I think. But this was a great start, guys. Thanks so much. Is there any recommended entry point into these two that you recommend? If people like these characters sound cool, I want to find out more about them. Mike, you said you read um a
Yeah.
particular book?
Oh, I'm spacing, but there's kind of in the Horus Heresy, there's basically it's either a trilogy or a four book or uh kind of arc that just follows a Vulcan. I recommend starting with that because that's kind of like where we learn a lot about of Vulcan. Is it's kind of like his books in the Horus Heresy, and then if you like that, maybe the War of the Beast series because he does show up in that, but that's post Heresy, post Scouring. So you kind of get to see, but you get to see more of him. So that's kind of my recommendations.
Carl, you got was that sorry, Mike, was that the Salamander book? Salamander's Rebirth, Salamander File Drake, Nocturne, Hunt
Yes,
for
yeah, yeah,
Vulcan. Those are the ones you're talking about, Mike?
Those are the one. Thanks for reminding their names. Like I kind of spaced them.
Oh, yeah, there's so many books. Carl, do you have any recommend? Because the thing that people need to know about the Horus Heresy is you can't kind of pick up a book. You can kind of start anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
don't
true.
start in the middle of one of the little mini series. Like, don't start in the middle of Siege of Terra, but there are some sort of jump on points. Carl, what would you recommend? I mean, the codex alone are
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the arm the well in 40 Warhammer 40K we have to play the actual tabletop game, you need the rule book, but you also have which also has a lot of lore.
Yeah,
The Each army or each faction has like what's called a codex, which we use to actually play the game.
right.
Each and then all these books they all have the lore, so that's a perfect place to start. Like the for example for the salamanders, just pick up the Space Marine Codex. There's some, not all of it, but there's plenty of lore on each chapter.
Yeah. That
And
is sort of a cool place to start because it's well bite-sized compared to the Horus Heresy.
yeah, it's
Yeah. But guys, thanks for coming on and thanks for liking stuff. Anything you want to add? We've done like our hour and a bit. I think this is great. And yes, people out there going, you didn't talk about this. You didn't talk about this. We try to keep these
yeah.
things to an hour, guys. If you love something, put it in a comment, add. Don't complain we didn't talk about it. You have
And
the chance to like stuff too.
yeah.
if I said something that probably someone will probably fact check me if I did said something wrong, that's fine. I'll accept it. So right now I'm just currently reading the Solar War, the first book of Siege of Terra.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. All
I'm
right.
loving it. I'm loving it.
I'm still playing Rogue Trader. I'm almost to chapter 5 again.
And
Wow.
I'm playing Pokemon Fire Red.
I'm playing that too. They're very
Yeah,
similar. I even made a video about it. Mike, what
yeah,
Warhammer stuff are you doing right now?
Oh, I'm just kind of like I'm about to reread the book Hell's Reach. It's not there's salamanders in it,
mm,
but it's mainly a Black Templar book. And if anyone's and that's if you're like, hey, I just want to check out, I want to read a book about Warhammer 40K. I don't know where to start. That's always my go-to recommendation. Read Hell's Reach.
yes, I highly agree. It's a really good book. It's very touching in a lot of ways. It
Yeah.
More
yeah,
Warhammer feels. Okay, we're gonna
yeah,
stop. Thanks, everybody. The next Men Liking Stuff next week should be on Angron and Sanguinius. So we'll see how that goes. There's a lot to unpack there, but
yeah.
we got quite a few coming up. With Carl and Mike will be back for some. There'll be other Men Liking Stuff in others. But if you like this content, like and subscribe. Add the stuff you like. If you like it enough, maybe you can come on and talk about what you like. But like stuff,
Absolutely.
like
Mhm.
stuff. It's manly. Thanks, guys.
Bye.